Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at On Mars. On Mars is a massive 1 to 4 player game published by Eagle Gryphon Games and designed by Lacerda. In On Mars, you're going to be trying to build different developments out on Mars and put your buildings on there and increase the level of the space station and do all sorts of really cool Marsy things. Now, I do like the Mars theme, and I do like worker placement games. This is the first Lacerda game that I've ever played, so I was super excited to get this to the table and give it a try. Now, I will say that it is a lot of rules to the game and a lot of little nuancy things, but from what I hear, once you've learned one Lacerda game, the other ones click pretty well. I do recommend checking out any of the videos for rules overviews. Most of them run about 30 to 45 minutes. It is a pretty heavy game. BGG, I believe, ranks it over a 4 out of 5 for weight. Probably about right. But let's go ahead down to the table. I'm going to give you a briefest overview that with still keeping an idea what you can do on the board and how it works in general. So this isn't a rules video, but it's just a high level overview. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. All right, so this is the typical setup of On Mars. Now, just a note, I'm not going over all the rules. In fact, I'm probably going to go over very little of the rules. I'm just going to give you a general overview of the game itself. The point of the game, basically. There's a lot of really good rules videos out there. Most of them range between 30 and 45 minutes, and they're really good, and they're really great to reinforce how to play the game. I really suggest whoever is going to be teaching the game, read the rules for the game, watch one of those videos, and have the people that are going to be playing watch those videos too to help out when they go over these rules, because most of the time the first game becomes a learning game for this because there's so many different things that you can do, which gives you tons of different choices on how you could potentially win the game and different strategies. So without further ado, I'm just going to go over just the idea of the game pretty much. Now, as you can see, the component quality of this game is amazing. I love these huge, chunky pieces that you get in the game. These player boards here are all dual layered. They so like the ships fit in it here, the cubes fit in. Really, really good. Cardboard's nice and thick. You have these big chunky markers for what the objectives are to that you're supposed to reach for the game. And I've already set the game up. There's a lot to the setup of putting out these cards and pieces and whatnot, but once you learn the setup, it's really easy to set it up the next time. Some of the things that are out on the board here is you can get your different scientists that will help you use some of these blueprints that you get later on in the game. Those are blueprints over there that help you place down your buildings to help you earn points throughout the game. These are your objective cards. They're randomly placed out in slot A, B, and C. Depending on the player count, that's where you're going to set your objective level to, and that's how many times that this objective needs to be done before you can consider it complete. So here with 2 players, it's going to be set at 8, 3 is 8, 4 is 10. And I set this up for a 4-player game. These are the different encounter markers that you can get out in the game. They all do the same thing. If you can land on them, they'll move you up this science track. There's going to be these resource trays. These are going to be, well, these aren't resources actually. These are the things you place out. Here's your resources and here's your gems. And in general, you're going to, for setup, going to be put out these little cubes here. You're going to be putting out these bonus tiles there. There's going to be more bonus tiles than slots. You'll just put the extras in the box. These ones have this light background for the tech tiles. Those are the ones you put out first. The dark ones are the ones that are going to be replacing them later on. And this is going to be your warehouse. On the player board itself here, Let's go ahead and zoom in on that. On the player board itself, you're going to have your ships. You're going to have these executive actions that you can take. You're going to get 2 gems to start the game. I didn't actually put them out. You can only have, they're actually down here at the start, but they'll pop up here. You can only store the amount of gems that you have open. As time goes by, you'll be placing these rocket ships here. You'll basically welcoming them in. These are all going to be points at the end of the game, and it gives you more spots that you can place your gems for storage. Also gives you more available executive actions. On this board, these executive actions will generally cost you these gems to do an additional action on your turn. These ones here, you can only do 1 per turn, and you can do it either before or after you take your action. These are your own little settlements that you're going to be trying to place out on the board as the game goes by. Once you place these out, you actually have more place to set crew. And here is your tech board. You will be trying to place these tiles out, and you'll start from here, and you'll do different things to move them across. Once they hit any of these spots at any point, even if they cross over them, you get those advantages. Down here is going to be where you can hold your resources. It has a little handy dandy reminder that the amount of resources that you can have is 1 plus the number of your little settlements you have out. You start the game with 1 settlement, so you can have up to 2 resources of each type there. And these are the cubes that you're going to be placing down on the board to claim points for building these different types of buildings. And here's your starting 3 workers. And you have a slot that's available for 1 more. At the end of the game here, this is going to be how many points? 3 points per worker. But as the game goes by, if you build these, the value of your workers will go up for every single one of these that you get to place out. And here's your starting rover. You can build more rovers and robots as time goes by, but at the start of the game you have 1 rover and you have 1 robot. So let's go back up to the board here. Back up to the board here, you're going to place your starting rover will be on your settlement, and you will have to place out your astronaut, which is going to be these big chunky astronauts here on this track to start the game, and this is going to be your turn order. Once you place these out, if they go onto a spot that gives you a bonus, you'll immediately get that bonus. We're going to go over what that means for having these on the track at certain locations in a second, but know that you're going to set that up, and then you're going to pick where the shuttle goes, either starting in space or on Mars. And after that, you're ready to start the game. So what do you do during this game? Well, this game is going to basically take over 2 phases. One is going to be your action phase, and the other one's going to be the shuttle phase. So during your action phase, you're going to take a look at where you are on the board. So these 2 astronauts are in space, and these 2 are on Mars. You're going to then, in turn order from left to right, be able to place a worker or do an action on the board. So if you're in space, you can do any of these actions. If you see where those big chunky tokens are, that'll indicate that that is an action that you can do to help complete one of the objectives. And all these have a reward. It just happens that all these ones have a 1 gem reward, but there's all different types of rewards. So, and actually C should be when you place it down. So that should be over here, and B should be over here, and that's when you get your blueprint. So what are the different things you can do? Well, this first one here doesn't require you to place an astronaut. This one just lets you flip your astronaut immediately to the other side. There's reasons why you want to do that. We're going to go over how the shuttle moves in a little bit, but you might, as an emergency, want to take your action to shoot your astronaut to Mars. This one here has 3 worker slots. Now, worker slots are interesting. When you place a worker down there, if you place the worker by itself, you're good. However, I have a couple pieces here to show you what I'm talking about. If an opponent has a worker in this spot here, then you have to pay for the difference. So let's say I place this worker here. I will have to exhaust a worker. So that means exhausting means put them in this workroom, and that means they're not going to be available until they're moved back to be able to take this action. And all these actions are different. This one here lets me get a blueprint up there. And what these blueprints do is they're going to give me a really cool executive action that I could take in the future. But they are going to require that I place down a building. So if I pick up this, if I go to that location, I exhausted a worker, and I pick this up, I will place this on the board and place my little building on it to indicate that I haven't completed it. And that's that action. This one actually happens to be one that completes an objective, so I do move the objective marker down one and get the reward. Now, a couple more things about spaces. So if this worker goes here, this worker is going to have to pay 2, so they're going to have to move 2 workers over to the exhausted, or their workbench, to be able to go there. But if some of the workers are the same, so let's say I put this one out here, I would only have to pay 1 because I don't have to pay for my own worker. The other thing that will happen is, let's say this worker wants to go here. They can. This place is full, but the person with the most workers gets them returned to their workbench area, like so. If they were all tied, meaning I wanted to come here and there was 1 of each, they would, all 3 players would get their meeples back. Other things you could do on the board is you could go out here on this side here and you get a tech tile. If you get a tech tile, if it has a cost underneath it, you'll have to pay that in resources. So if I wanted this one here, I would have to pay a battery. And I would place that back in the supply, and then I would get the tile. When you place the tiles, they're going to go on to the leftmost slot of your board. You'll place them down, you'll get the bonus here. Anytime you see these 3 cubes, that means get a resource from the warehouse. So I'll be able to pick up one of these in here. This one here will let me move a technology. So here I can move one technology up to twice, or I can move 2 different technologies once. To move a technology, you're going to have to pay the resource on the top of where it's going. So I'd have to pay an air here. And if I wanted to move here, I'd have to pay another air. Whenever I move over anything on the technology board, I immediately get that bonus. And the last place on here is I can simply go to the warehouse. If I go to the warehouse, then I get to pick up a good. Now, something interesting about these locations when you're placing them down is these ones, like here, I'm not going to be placing a worker here. There's not slots here, but I'm going to say I'm doing this action. So you just go, and you get to do that action. But some of them have these little icons on the bottom, green little icons. That means you can boost the action. What boosting the action means is that I can expend workers. So let's say I had some over here. I can expend workers to do the action again. And I can do that for however many workers that I have, and I'll get to keep doing that action. So that could become really powerful. Like if I wanted to get a couple blueprints, I could get a couple blueprints. When you take these things on the board, they're not immediately refilled. They're only refilled when the certain events occur on the game. So what else is there? Well, on the Earth side here, or sorry, not Earth, on the Mars side here, you have another array of actions that you can take. In general, the left side here is going to let you gain things to do stuff. In general, on the right here, you do the things. There is a couple slots you can go to. You don't go to here at all, but you could go to any of these locations here. This one here will let you place a tile out. This one here will let you place your building out. If you place your building out, you're going to pay the resources on the card. You get the reward on the card when you place it, and you will also get the resource that's related to the card for however many that you have chained. There's all sorts of rules for placing these down and chaining and stuff. I'll let you watch a video for that, but just know that you get a lot of resources sometimes when you place these down, and there's a lot of benefits. And everything on this board here is communal. So you don't really own this tile. You can put buildings on tiles, but people can still build off your stuff throughout the game. This place right here will let you pick up a scientist. This place is really unique on the board. When you place your worker here, you have to place it in your color, and that worker will not return normally. So you return your workers, which we'll go over in a second, during shuttle phases sometimes, and these ones won't come back. You'll have to return them by different means throughout the game. This one here will let you move your rover or your robot. Dang it, I forget what they called. And this one here will let you welcome a ship. This spot's unlimited. You can go to the spot as much as you want. This one can get boosted by gems. This one here can get boosted by expending extra workers and do it more. Okay. So that in general is the actions that you can take on the board. Now, some of the things that you'll get for taking these actions. So if you place a tile on the board, depending on what type of the tile it is, this marker, which this actually should be down here, so sorry about that, will move up. When this marker moves up, you get the bonus that's up on top here. So this one here, you'll immediately get 2 points for every shuttle you have. So a lot of a really cool strategy you can have on here is building up to gain the bonuses and make the most of them when you place down your tiles. Here you'll get 2 points for every robot that you have. Here you're going to get 2 points for every tech tile that you picked up. Or not tech tile, these are going to be the explore tokens. That you get, the square ones. And this one here, you're going to get 2 points for every building. A couple really important things to point out about this board is these are going to be a really great way how you're going to get bonus points. So if the green player moves this one up one, they're going to look at their board and they're going to take the cube that's under that type and place on here to mark that they have done that. They will also get this bonus up here, plus they'll also get one of these 4 bonuses in addition. If they do this again, so they build another battery location or energy location and move it up here, they will not get this bonus. You can move this past the space station, but if you do, you don't get this top bonus. The space station, you can only go up to the level of the space station to get the bonuses. You will get that, and you'll get to put your mark. Well, you already have a marker out, so no, you won't get to put another marker out. But that's something you need to watch out for the game. You might be building up your strategy for it, but you also need to pay attention to where this is at. Now, when all 4 of these go up and they're at the level of the space station will move up, and different things will happen, like scoring for this here, which is the shows on the bottom. If you have 1, it's 1 point. You have 2, it's 2 points. You have 3, it's 4 points. 4, it's 7 points, and all 5 is 11 points every time these hit. Also, these also signify refilling of the board. So that's basically where the refilling of the board is going to come from. So that's a big portion of the game. That's a big benefit of putting out your tiles. And now we're going to go over what happens after you take your actions. And now I know I glazed over a lot of these. I went over them really fast. I just want to give you a general idea of the actions you could take during the game. After your action phase, everyone taking action, the shuttle will move. The shuttle, if it's up here, is going to only move closer. Once it's in the red, it'll flip to the other side. Important thing to note, as time goes by, the shuttle will move when it goes to the other section. So let's say this moved up, because these are all up here. The shuttle will then flip and then it'll go to that number, so 2. So it takes longer and longer before the shuttle actually flips to the other side. So in this case, the shuttle is going to go to this side. And anyone that was on this side can hitch a ride to the shuttle. And in turn order, they can pick new locations they want to go to here. And they'll get the benefit if they're in there. Otherwise, they get the benefit of the turn order. You will also, get to place out these tiles. And there's rules for how they get placed. They have to be a certain distance from your robot and stuff like that. And you'll get to pick up any of your workers for the place you went. So I get to pick up any workers that I had here, and they will go back in. And any workers that I had here will go back and be ready. Now, if there's not a slot for them, you will lose these workers. There are tons of ways to get, or tons of ways you'll gain. It's pretty easy to gain workers throughout the game. So you will have them out on the board. If they're out on the board, they're fine. But if they return in, which they all have to return in if they can, and they don't fit, you will lose them. But you can regain them later. All right, one major point that is really good to tell people is how the rovers and the robots work. So the way the rovers work is they're going to move when you go here or other places. They're going to move up to the distance here. So I can move this guy 2. So 1, 2. And if I go over any of these tiles here and land on them, so I have to actually land on them, I get them. So this one here will give me 3 of the battery resource. This one here let me move 2 of my techs up. And this one for free, so I don't have to actually pay the stuff. So, because there's a little cross on there. So the rovers help you pick up stuff. The robots are the exact opposite. Now your starting rover, every single one is in the starting building here. In the starting building here, they're placed on your board because you can, as a rule for the game, you can only have 1 piece of wood on each location. So just symbolically, they're all in that dock and you can pull them out. Robots destroy stuff that they go land on or go across. So you can destroy these things and prevent other people from getting it. One other thing I did want to point out is when you place tiles, there are 1 tile, which is these mines here, that you will be placing your worker on. And you can gain resources from it. That's going to be what happens when your shuttle goes the opposite direction, which is really cool. Not only are you going to return your workers that are in the space area if it goes to the other side here, but you're going to gain resources for anything that you have buildings on, and if your worker is on one of these mines. So that's a really cool way of pulling in more resources, and another reason why you want to hitch a ride out. So in a there's one more thing to go over here before I wanted to show you these 2. So you can pick up these scientists. You have to pay what's on the bottom if you pick up a scientist. And the scientist will come over to you. This will go on the end of the board and it'll give you a bonus. And the bonus is always going to be a different type here. So this one here, if I pick up this mineral scientist here, I will get a point for every, or 3 points for every building that I have on top of an energy location. So I will get this scientist, and I can use this scientist to perform an executive actions that match this type. And these will be on the different buildings where I could perform the executive action using this guy for free once per turn. And you could actually place this on opponents' buildings or blueprints that they finish the buildings on, but know that this worker, although it's going still your worker, they can use that executive action for free as long as that worker is there. So keep that in mind. Once you get the scientist, and one of these cards will flip out and they'll be available. These are objective cards. These objective cards will give you points if you finish them, negative points if you don't. So be careful picking these up. Like this one will give you 12 points if you finish it, but negative 6 if you don't. And the game will continue until 3 objectives are met. Now, this is the last thing I'll go over. This will tick down. Once the 3 objectives are met, it'll come down here. Then you'll do one final full round, and you'll do scoring. And the scoring will go in order. Like you'll score here, you'll score for your shuttles, your score for your buildings and people, you score for your tactiles. As the time goes by, these are going to be the points that you're going to get for every tactile in those columns. You'll score for your blueprints, you'll score for your scientists, and you score for any objectives that you've gotten. And the person with the most points will win at the end of the game. Now, a couple notes on this is as time goes by, the farther this goes up, it will start actually ticking this down. So if I go to 3, it'll tick it down 1. If I go here, it'll tick it down another 1. If I go here, the shuttle explodes. So the shuttle will no longer be available to move it back and forth. So that's it. So a couple things to remember. Focus on getting points here. Focus on trying to double up these objectives, or not objectives, these bonuses here, so you will actually get the bonus in a good amount of points and move this up. Placing tiles out on the board to do this is always going to be a decent strategy. There's all sorts of different strategies on the board. You could also focus on getting tech tiles out and making sure you can get as many tech tile points as possible. There's, as you can see, there's limited slots in here. So there's only one that's going to give you 9 points, but there's a lot of points to be had there. A lot of points to be had here. And there can be a lot of points by getting the scientists. If you get the scientists, best to get ones that you are capitalizing on for points at the end of the game. Also, if you could get some blueprints that give you executive actions that really help you out, or someone else did, that would be another reason to pick them up. The blueprints will get better as time goes by. On the board up top there, it shows you which round, which phase, or which part of these here will give, as this goes down, will give you different either level 1 or level 3 buildings. The level 1 buildings are going to be worth 3 points at the end of the game. The level 5 buildings are going to be worth level 3 buildings, sorry, will be worth 5 points at the end of the game. So that in a nutshell is a general idea how you're going to be playing on Mars. There's a lot to this game, and I highly recommend watching a video on it. One of the things I did forget, because there's so much in this game here, and I wanted to mention is you have personal objectives. You get to complete one of these by the end of the game, if possible. And there's different things that'll let you switch out your objectives in here to something else. But the other thing you can do is you could discard these to take in place of exhausting workers, which is really cool. But you only can complete one of those if you do by the end of the game. But you could still use the remainder to in place of exhausting workers. So, sorry, there's a lot to this game. It's a really cool game. Let's go ahead back up to the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts on Mars. So, on Mars, I really like this game. I will say that the first game, regardless of how we did it, is still like a learning game. So I believe all other future plays will be better, and they were. The first game, there's a lot of different mechanics and nuancy things to learn. So for the first game, it is definitely a learning game, and it's some people that might be difficult to swallow, since the game can take a long time. And for us, it took 4 hours to play the first game. I think that's atypical. That was a very long time. We were trying to get everything right on our playthrough, and subsequent times were less, so around 2 hour area. So first game may take you a while. I'm not sure if that was just us. I think it partly is just us pausing and just trying to make sure everything's perfect instead of just going with the game. Component quality on the game is amazing. Really great component quality. Super happy with this. It has a really amazing insert I didn't show you, but it has an amazing insert that comes with the game. Everything's wonderful. It's going to last for a very long time. It's also a giant box. So it's not quite as thick, but it is still a pretty big box. So it'll fit here, but it's just a big box. Gameplay overall was very engaging, and I do appreciate, for as heavy as the game actually is, mechanically, once you understand the symbols and how things function, it's actually pretty simple. It's just that initial learning. And I really do like how fast the turns go, because you're only taking one action on your turn, and then you're moving the shuttle, and so things go by quickly. So people aren't taking 20-30 minutes on their turn. They can just take their turn and move along. So I do appreciate that a lot. There's a high level of engagement in this game, because you do care where people are going. You do care what other people are doing. Everything is like communal in the game for the most part. So when people raise the level up and the space station's ready to move up, that's important. When they place tiles out on the board and you can chain with them, that's important. So there's a lot of really cool things. And the other thing I really like about it is there's definitely multiple strategies that you can employ that are valid to win this game. Theme is also really nice. I also, just getting back to components, I really like that they screen printed the meeples. That's just amazing. They could have just put wooden chunks in here and it would have been fine too. But they really went out of their way to have the theme show in the game, and they really went out of their way to make iconography make sense in this game. This game would be probably unplayable without the good iconography that they have, because that really offloads a lot of the issues of learning when you do good iconography, and they did that. So I do appreciate that. If you like the Mars theme, you like worker placement games, and you don't mind investing some time in the game, because you're going to need to invest a lot of time, not only just learning the rules, which I do recommend you learn the rules, watch a rules video, send out the rules video to the people that are playing the game so they can get a little bit of a, as much chance for that first game to get as much enjoyment as they can out of it, but also still teach the game when they come. But I do recommend it for the game, as long as you don't mind that investment, and the first game potentially, in all likelihood, being a learning game, so you'll be investing in playing this more than once. I would highly recommend this game. This is one of those games that rewards knowing how to play the game. It's more satisfying every time you play it, because you can diverge into different strategies. You get to sort of see different synergies that are on the board. One thing, a recommendation, if you do want to play this game, is going to be, especially when you start out, check out the bonuses and stuff you get from that board where you move up the tokens for placing out tiles. If you can chain those and get as many points as possible, you're probably going to do fairly well. And you can branch out to other things in the future, like sort of capitalizing on the points you get from the scientists, capitalizing on when you're going to be welcoming shuttles to get points. There's just so many things. Maybe even go after those bonus cards. We didn't do any bonus cards on our first game, but later on we did. It's just because without being fully versed in all the things you can do, those bonus tiles are a little scary, because, like I said, you get the points if you complete them, but you get negative points if you don't. So overall, that's my recommendation for the game. If you're looking for a great Euro, and don't mind investing some time in the game itself and like the Mars theme, I would highly recommend checking out On Mars. And that's my thoughts on it. Thank you for watching.